Brush your horse while we get into this week's
Initial thoughts. Part 1. Initial thoughts. Part 1. Initial thoughts.
Hello, my wonderful Treksters. This is a very special day, and not just because we've got a mini movie to talk about, but this marks my 50th Initial Thoughts video in less than 365 days. We've had Star Trek on overload for the past year, and I've been happy to be part of the review process. And a big thanks to all of you that keep coming back and helping support the channel. I never ask, but if you enjoy the content by the end, please consider a like and subscribe. Now, let's talk Crisis Point 2 Paradoxus. I've got a barn full of spoilers if you'd like to ride your horse elsewhere. This episode impressed me. This is not only possibly the best episode of Lower Decks to date, but one of the best episodes of Star Trek in my humble opinion. We're dropped into the scene that we were teased with on Star Trek Day of Romulans stealing a crystal from the Cerritos, and Bucephalus Dagger comes to his rescue. We see its Romulan triplets that are clearly a callback to the Duras sisters want this crystal that can fold time and go back to the past. Our first of many likes today goes to Mariner throughout the run, bringing up these fourth wall breaking, self-actualized comments about the content of Boimler's movie. Starting with what sounds like a weird line about assassinating Kennedy as part of the plot, but this was a bizarre idea Gene Roddenberry kept pitching during the script development of Star Treks 2 through 4. He was really enamored with this idea of Spock being the gunman on the grassy knoll. Mariner then follows that up by casually dropping the idea of alternative cinematic universe younger versions of themselves. Way to poke fun at JJ Trek. I'm loving it and the Vindictiverse. Boimler's called to see Ransom, which we'll get back to in a while, and when he comes back to the Wrath of Khan style opening credits, he's not the same bold Boimler we've seen this season. I'm not giving a dislike, but after last week's alternative intro titles, it would have been nice to work the real credits here as another alternate, and it would have given Mariner more chance for fourth wall breaking by asking, who the heck is Tawny Newsome? I do love the movie credits, but there was a missed opportunity. We're treated to yet another reuse of the Regula 1 model, this time just a slightly redesigned top sticking out of the ground. There's another callback here, and I'm not sure if it's even a callback or just a straight lift for the panel around the top secret station as they look at the 80s graphics of how Wallerium Deutronium powers the chronorgasmic matrix to time travel. That may be the ultimate bit of technobabble, and poking fun at it gets a like from me. After beaming down to the planet the Romulans have the time crystal on, I've got another like for the awesome sequence of people ranting about different things, including Manuki from earlier this season, one screaming about how they're all holograms in a simulation, which they are, a dude holding a sign similar to Captain Braxton's warnings to the 20th century about the end being near, and my personal favorite, the one trying to get you to buy into the great koala that lives atop the Black Mountain as the ultimate deity in the universe. What was meant to be filler generated by the computer becomes Boimler's side quest, as Tendi, Rutherford, and Hollow Cerritos bridge officers complete the main quest line. Boimler becomes enamored with finding meaning in the one preacher's idol, Kitia, who reveals this weird tattoo on his gross chest that I'm basically obligated to give a like to. There's a few callbacks here, like Kelva, which would be a long way away, as the home of the Andromeda Galaxy race that took over Kirk's Enterprise. There's Thalos, which is just a system that's been in multiple star charts shown over the years. Itamishi, which was presumably the system that Cisco once took a camping trip to with Jake and his then wife. Karzel is where Boimler became transporter duplicated. Finally, of all the random spots, Alpha 7 was once the destination of a faceless passenger on the manifest Data goes over in TNG's Inheritance. I've got 2 likes for Mariner in the middle deciding she doesn't want to play Boimler's weird side quest anymore. The first is for more self-actualized dialogue between her and wannabe Captain Dagger, as he says her movie didn't have a real ending and she says that he's ruining her franchise. And I'm not sure if this bit is pointed at the idea of things that would make Gene Roddenberry roll in his grave, or if it's meant to be how some of us fans seem to have this feeling of ownership regarding their favorite show, and if the current showrunners don't give that person exactly what they want, they'll go on a nostalgia-fueled rampage on the internet comments. Boimler comes out with pretty much Star Trek's mission statement with, "This is an important examination of the human condition." This whole angst-filled scene is an important piece that both fans and showrunners of Trek need to hear. The second light comes as Mariner exits the holodeck, and this might be the best way ever to transition from ultra-widescreen to full 16:9, as Mariner literally has to step over the black barring to exit the holodeck. This is one of the funniest things I've ever seen, but it may lead to me giving a dislike to all future episodes of Star Trek in ultra-wide. I hate it in general, but the way it's made fun of here is a thing of perfection. Smack dab in the middle of a 30-minute movie with 2 concurring running plots, we take a little breather with Mariner as she has an evaluation with Ransom that also brings her season arc of character and Starfleet growth to new levels, and Jack gives her high marks and praise. He also clues her and the audience in on what's been weighing on Boimler. His transporter duplicate has headed off to the great koala in the sky. The explanation he gives her about a neurazine gas leak killing him in his sleep, though, seems very suspicious. Back in the Devana and Samanthan show, they get into an Indiana Jones-style chase with the Romulans, first across open terrain and then across time, as they visit several periods in Starfleet history, including a new addition to the Lost Era canon. In 2341, there's an event known as the Sulian Algae Crisis, with a Federation Octopus ambassador, and off-screen they end up going back to Earth 1982, where they tussle with some street punks straight out of the Terminator, and it's even the part cyborg guy kicking ass. They then go to the founding of the Federation ceremony we last saw in Enterprise's final episode. The attention to detail throughout this mini-movie to feeling like scenes we've seen before gets another overall like from me. This culminates in the Romulans trying to use a bomb like we've seen in Nemesis to stop the Federation before it begins. And as Rutherford disarms it, I've got a like for coming back to the Season 1 joke about the choo-choo dance. After T'Ana dies from what appears to be a Varan T disruptor, Tendi lets Rutherford know she's had it with him not taking the story seriously. She's been in command of the mission ever since Bucephalus went rogue, and to her she takes Rutherford's lack of seriousness as not taking her seriously as a commander. This is where Tendi's tiny bits of character growth through this season come to fruition. And I've got a like for this new, more confident Tendi that knows what she wants, and the rest of the movie is her showing how to get it. Not only does she bring out the cleaner in her to kick Romulan butt and retrieve the crystal, but comes up with a plan to turn it all around by using the crystal to go back to the start of the movie and feed the Romulans their own bomb instead of the crystal. Way to go, Tendi! I can't wait to see more of her going forward. Really, Rutherford's the only character this week that doesn't get major growth, but we already got that earlier in the season. Going back to the other plot, Mariner comes back to the holodeck to give support to Boims now that she knows about William's death. She finds him imprisoned by the Kitiha followers and tries to meet him on his level by being a good friend. After which, Knick-Knack, Boimler's new love interest, pulls a Final Frontier Scotty and jailbreaks them. The trio put the cult priest and acolytes 1 and 2 down to reveal the location of Kitiha, and Boimler's side quest isn't over. It turns out Kitiha is a computer creative positive quote generator that's a cross between the unused rock creatures from Star Trek V and the snakehead cave god from the Apple. Boimler's still not satisfied with this answer, and decides, to his own detriment, to dig deeper, and finds a plot device that makes absolutely as much sense as the motion picture. Kitiha is just the right flyer made famous at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. This is ridiculous computer-generated nonsense, but by the great koala, for every time I've sat through the motion picture snooze fest, this gets a well-deserved like. Finding this causes Boimler to pass out and wake up, black barring removed, in what appears to be the real world. He's on Kirk's farm from generations, just when you think we're gonna get the big reveal of the man himself. Apparently, time and budget could only afford Uncle George. But Oh my, if this isn't one of the greatest characters to come back in Trek. This is an obvious like, and not just for the appearance of one of Star Trek's most iconic classic characters, but for George Takei joining an elite club of two. He and Clint Howard are currently the only two actors to have acted on TV in every era of Trek. I believe the only other person that could ever make that list is Diana Muldaur, and she gave up acting in the 90s. Anyway, I've got another like for the advice Captain Sulu gives Boimler in his search for the meaning of existence. That if you spend your life looking for meaning, you're missing life, which is its own self-fulfilling point. In an episode that brought up random religious overtones, this one-line philosophy seems like the most perfectly Star Trek answer you could ever get to what's the meaning of life? Only for Boimler to do his fangirl thing and hilariously be bitten by a horse, which is really T'Ana bringing him back to life with a hypo, as he was clinically dead from dehydration. As our heroes recount what a good time they had in Boimler's program, I've got a like for throwing a normal Lower Decks joke at us at the very end, where Stevens leaned against the warp core, lost huge amounts of his skin, and apparently this is the second time it happened today. We get one more bit of Mariner poking fun at the episode we're currently watching about it being good that the movie didn't end on a dark cliffhanger. You knew we were going to get a dark cliffhanger after that, and I'm here for it with a final like. I called this in my notes as I watched the episode. William Boimler isn't dead and was just covered to join Section 31. A Nerzine gas leak is unlikely for a variety of reasons, and to just have him and no one else die was suspicious. Which led me to think of this Enterprise novel right here, where it reveals Trip's death wasn't meaningless. He was just being tapped for a part in Section 31, and I've got to say, it's a much more satisfying end to the character. This is also what I suspect is happening with Una in Strange New Worlds, but we'll have to wait till next year to find out if that theory is correct. For now, Black Badge Boimler on an unregistered Defiant-class ship is a plot I can't wait to explore in the future. I can't think of a more fitting way to mark the 50th episode of Initial Thoughts than this absolute masterpiece of both comedy and something that also feels decidedly Star Trek. It's a very rare day I give out no dislikes. We've got 2 episodes left in the season, and there's still time to try and one-up this instant classic in the franchise. Until next week, Trekkies, thanks for watching. I've been your host, Dustin Wing.